Hey guys, this is Stephanie Lowe, CEO of the J29 Experience, and I know that we are coming to a close for the month of October, which is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So I wanted to stop by and just kind of have a conversation with you guys about domestic abuse and abuse in general. For those of you who have not checked out the website, be sure to check out www.j29experience and see all the resources that we have to offer. For those of you who are new visitors to the J29 Experience page, or even my personal page, I want to let you know that the J29 Experience is a service-based company that offers an array of resources to divorced women. That includes women who have already gone through the divorce proceeding, as well as women who are currently going through the divorce proceeding. And not only does it offer resources to divorced women, but it also offers resources to the divorced women's families. We are not an advocate of divorce, but we are a company that facilitates the empowerment and healing of divorced women and their families. And so if you have not had a chance to go to the J29 page, I want you to go and check it out. See all of the things that we have to offer. And then also I want to let you know real quick that for the month of November, we have some amazing life group sessions coming up. So for all of you who are aware of women who have already been divorced, gone through a divorce, struggling, going through this exile experience, refer them over to the J29 resource group. We have one-on-one mentoring. We have life group sessions where we actually bring in licensed and credentialed experts in the areas of credit and finance, in the areas of fitness, nutrition, yoga, wellness, and also in the arenas of therapists. We want families to be healed. And I understand from my own personal experience that a healed woman can heal a nation. I get it that men are our leaders and men are the head of our households. And so in order for those men to also heal, they also need healed women who are right there alongside of them. So tonight we want to talk about the types of abuse. I want to say to those of you who have endured any form of abuse, to those of you who know someone who has gone through abuse, it is something that we definitely have to understand and something that we definitely need to get a grip on. And we can only do that by changing our day-to-day activities and the understanding of abuse and what it really entails, so that we can help someone else overcome that situation and so that we can be a voice for someone who may not have the courage to speak up. I myself have gone through abuse in several forms, in the form of being a child, in the form of being an adult. And even sometimes when we think we have overcome those situations and we think that we've healed from those situations, we can find ourselves getting right back entrapped into a situation that may not be exactly what we've gone through. But I want to stop by and let you know that abuse can come in many forms. And so when we obtain the knowledge and the power of understanding what abuse is, then we can get a tackle on it. And then also when we can understand what abuse is, we can be a better support to those who are going through it, to those who have already gone through it. So for those of you who are tuning in, thank you again. This is Stephanie Lowe, CEO of the J29 Experience. I hope that you guys are having an amazing weekend and an amazing Sunday with your family. So let's dive right in. So domestic abuse in and of itself, as we all know, we know that it involves physical abuse. But domestic abuse is also known as relationship abuse or intimate partner abuse. And I know that a lot of people don't use those terms, but if we can identify the different forms and the different terms that it goes by, then we can get a better grip on exactly what abuse is. Most of us know that the number one way that or form that abuse comes in is physical. Physical abuse, of course, is actual laying on of hands, that be in the form of choking, shoving, pushing, anything that is actually tangible force, a force that someone lays their hands on you, is considered physical abuse. But a lot of times we don't even consider sexual abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse. All of these things are different types of abuse that not just women go through, but men are abused as well. And nowadays I find that there are more men who are being abused than we know. And because so many people have fear of speaking out about abuse, then oftentimes society shuns it, or society puts down men because they speak up. But men go through abuse just as much as women, if not more so. And so I want us all to get the knowledge to understand that if we can have knowledge about what abuse really is, then we can get a grip on it and understand that not just adults go through abuse. We have children who go through abuse. And so who's going to speak up for those who don't have a voice? Who's going to be that shield, that protector, that one who's going to say, you know what, I'm noticing that something's off track, something's not right. And so I want you guys to get the knowledge to know what are the red flags to abuse. What are some things that I can identify that some of my very own family members may be going through? You know, so many times we can see people who wear a mask every day and they're smiling every day and they're going throughout their everyday lives, but we have no clue what that person may be dealing with behind closed doors. And so my goal is to empower individuals so that we understand what abuse really is, and so that we can have more compassion to know that people are dealing with things every single day that we're not aware of. And I use myself as an example. There were some things that I've gone through in my life that were so tragic that I wouldn't have dared even talking to somebody about. But you know what? Deep down, I was often crying out, just wishing for someone to say, hey, what are you dealing with? What are you going through? Or I'm noticing that there's something that's off with you. But I didn't have a voice at that time. I didn't have a voice to speak up. And even being a child who goes through a form of abuse, you don't know what to do. You don't know what to say. And so I think that if we can make ourselves aware as a society, as a community, as a family of what abuse really is and what it includes, then we can help be a voice for someone else. And so again, the different types of abuse are physical abuse, which includes the tangible laying on of hands in some form of another. It can even be as simple as shoving. Anything that is uncomfortable for someone else can be a form of abuse. And I think that as men and women, once we come into an understanding of that, we can, number one, understand that, hey, I need to make sure that even myself, that I keep my hands to myself. And I need to make sure that I am treating others in a form that I would like to be treated in return. Another form of abuse is sexual. You know, we all know the saying, no means no. But you know what? Sometimes we don't have to verbally say no to mean no. If someone is doing something that makes us feel uncomfortable or that we feel is violating our own personal atmosphere, that can be a form of abuse, especially if we make it known to that person, you're violating my space. And so many times that can even come from those who are in our own home, those that we are in a intimate relationship with. We have to set our boundaries, make those boundaries known, and we have to hold people accountable for their actions and not just push things under the rug. So many times I know in the Black community, we are so used to pushing things under the rug, things that have happened to generation after generation after generation. And instead of someone speaking up and saying, you know what, it stops here. There's not going to be another child that's going to be molested. There's not going to be another person who's going to be abused. There's not going to be another person who's going to be shoved or cursed out or just treated wrongly. We have to now stand up, take a voice, and speak for the generations that are coming after us. Otherwise, this cycle will continue, and it will continue to the point that nobody's getting healed. Everybody's remaining sick with this abuse syndrome is what I like to call it. And so we have to be a voice for those who do not have a voice of their own, y'all. And so we've identified physical abuse. We've identified sexual abuse. And then there's something called verbal abuse. You know, we can have people in our lives and it may just be common conversation with them, something that they're used to having every day. Well, verbal abuse is any word that comes out of someone's mouth that you have a relationship with of any kind that makes you uncomfortable. We cannot continue to allow people to speak to us any kind of way and think that it's okay. You know, oftentimes in our very own families, not just intimate relationships, but in our very own families, because it's quote unquote normal. This is how auntie talks to me. This is how uncle talks to me. We seem to think that it's okay. But then that person or that child can go back home and behind closed doors contemplate suicide because someone's speaking to them in a way that makes them feel uncomfortable, in a way that makes them feel unworthy, in a way that makes them feel like throwing in the towel on life. And so I want to remind you guys that we don't know what people are dealing with on an everyday basis. And it is so important that we, number one, learn how to handle people with care. We have to know that the human body is more fragile than we think. And oftentimes, people think that only people who are empaths are abused, but that's not true. People who are strong get abused as well. People who are emotionally strong, mentally strong get abused. Abuse derives from wanting to have control and wanting to have power. That's where it all stems from. And when we can identify the forms of abuse, we can start holding people accountable for their actions. So we've identified physical abuse. We've identified sexual abuse. We've identified verbal abuse. Well, what about emotional abuse? In my own experience, I found in mentoring and counseling so many women, so many children, that emotional abuse is one of the most severe forms of abuse because you don't see any signs of it. There is no tangible evidence of it. There are no scars on the outside. You can have on your makeup, you can have on your clothes, a man can have on his suit, and everything can look fine on the outside. But on the inside, a person can be dying emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and it all comes from emotional abuse. Well, what does emotional abuse include? Emotional abuse can include anything from manipulation, anything from where someone is belittling you, making you feel like you're less than, making themselves appear to be a superior to you, making themselves appear that they are on some kind of platform. Emotional abuse is something where, I find in this day and time, we're dealing with so many people who have narcissistic tendencies. Well, what is a narcissist? A narcissist is someone who is a cold-hearted person. They can change with the flip of a switch. They have multiple personalities. They can appear on the outside to have it all together, to have the life that anybody would want. They can appear to be the most lovable person, the most likable person, the most popular person, the person that everybody wants to be around, the person that everybody is drawn to. But this person knows how to flip the switch, and they are drawn to people that they can benefit from. So if you have something that they can benefit from, whether it be your success level, whether it be your finances, whether it be your mental capacity, your intellectual being, this day and time, we are dealing with so many people who are medically diagnosed with being a narcissist. And that's a form of abuse. And because that term is on an all-time high, so many people are trying to really identify what it is and how to note the red flags of what it is. But I'll tell you this, I've gone through it. I've gone through it tremendously. And no, it wasn't in my divorce. I've gone through it, a form of it in my divorce, but I've also gone through it more severely after my divorce. And a lot of people don't understand and recognize the signs of it. So I want to shed awareness on abuse. I want to shed awareness on how to identify the red flags of abuse. And even to those of you who may be connected to someone who could be going through abuse. It's so important that you're able to identify how this person may be feeling so that you can go to them in private, go to them in a compassionate way so that you can gain their understanding to say, you know what, I'm here for you. I noticed that there are some things that are not right. If you need to talk, I'm here. Sometimes that's all the abuse needs to hear is that somebody's there, is that they're not going to be judged, and is that they're not the victim. So many times victims of abuse are made to believe that it's your fault that you went through this. It's your fault that you've gotten abused. And that guilt trip is placed on them, not just by the person who abused them or by family members, but when they finally get the courage to speak out about abuse, it saddens me that so many people are quick to judge and say, well, you should have known better, or you're too smart for this. You can take the most intelligent person, the person with the highest IQ, the person with the highest EQ level, EI level, and you can, place them in a situation and you not even know that they're going through abuse. And so someone's social status has nothing to do with it. Anyone can become a victim of abuse. We just have to start identifying the red flags and identifying how we can be a support to those who are going through divorce and how we can be a voice for them. And so some of the red flags of abuse Number one, there's two different stages. There's red flags for you to identify who's being abused, and there are also red flags for you to identify who may possibly be the abuser. We just have to start keeping our eyes open, keeping our ears open, and not being so judgmental, but having compassion to look around us, open up our eyes, and identify what's going on around us. Because I guarantee you, there's somebody near you that's going through abuse, and they don't have the courage to speak up, and they need you to be that voice for them. And so for the victim, oftentimes when you find that somebody is always isolated, always to themselves, or they're kind of on ups and downs, highs and lows. Yeah, we all go through highs and lows every day. We're not going to always have a great day every day. But in particular, when you notice someone is always bubbly, they're always happy, they're always extremely peaceful and just ready to go for the day. And when you notice that that person is more laid back, more isolated, more to themselves, not really entertaining conversations, not really wanting to be involved as they used to be, reach out to that person. You don't have to make it known to everybody else. Listen, when you have to do things and make it known to everyone else, that's your reward there. But a person of integrity will go to that person in secret, go to that person in private, talk to them, let them know that you're there for them, and do it in a way with compassion. Do it in a way that you're saying, I love you. I'm concerned about you. I'm noticing that you're more isolated than normal. I'm seeing that you're more antisocial than normal. Is there anything that I can do? If there's anything you need to talk about, I'm here. And really mean that. Victims of abuse need to know that they have your trust. They need to know that you're not going to run and tell the world what they're dealing with. And so when we as people can learn to have more integrity, more compassion, when we're noticing these red flags of our loved ones, of our families, friends, associates, colleagues, all of these different people in our lives, then we can be of better help to them. So identify isolation, antisocial behavior. If you're noticing even as far as physical abuse, that one, many of us know it. If we're seeing someone in the summertime and they're walking around with long sleeves on and it's 100 degrees outside. I've been there. I've seen it. I've done it. I've seen people. I've witnessed people in my very own family. And I've tried to be a voice for them. And I want to let you know that sometimes you can try to be a voice for people who are being abused and they will reject it. They will reject it because they don't want people to know their business. They will reject it because they're trying to hold on to living this false life. They will reject it because they're so in love. So they think with this person who's abusing them that they don't want to lose them, or they don't want to make the situation worse, so that when they return back home, they won't go through something that's worse than what they've already gone through. I have spoken out for someone who's been abused, and I'll tell you, it has backfired on me. So we also have to be very cautious, because sometimes there are people who are being abused. They don't want help. And in those situations, you have to find an advocate of some form to let them know what is going on in that person's life. Because my fear, when I found out that someone very close to me was being abused, my fear was that what if this person's life gets taken? And I'm the one person who knew about it. Then how would I feel if I'm standing over their casket and they're not here, but they could have been here had I said something? And I chose to speak out for this person. And instead of this person coming forth and coming clean with their abuse, even though the evidence was there, this person denied everything 100%. And it affected our relationship tremendously. And it hurt me tremendously because I knew what this person was going through. But what could I do? I felt like I was, my back was up against the wall. I couldn't do much of anything because I felt like I did the right thing. I reported the abuse. I told the ones close to this person is being abused. And it still backfired on me. So what do you do when you find yourself in a situation such as that? Sometimes the best thing you can do after you've reported it, after you have made others aware of the situation, you go to God in prayer. You lift that person up. Still love that person, because you never know. That person may come back to you one day and say, you know what? I thank you for bringing awareness to my situation. I didn't like it then, but I am appreciative of it now because I still have my life. And so when you've done what the right thing to do, when you've reported the abuse, when you've gone to that person in love and in compassion with no judgment, and that person still rejects the help, you go to God. Because guess what? God can turn things around. God can do things that nobody else can do. And I'll tell you what, that person that was the abuser, they're no longer in the picture. When I did everything that I needed to do, and I saw that that person was rejecting the help, I got on my knees and I began to lift both of those individuals up to God. And I began to go into warfare mode for this person, praying that God would protect them, that God would get them out of that situation, that some situations would be exposed, and that justice would come forward. And God made himself known, y'all. And I tell you what, God has never lost not one battle. And so when you've done what you can to help an abuse victim, you go to God in prayer. And so those are some of the red flags for victims of abuse. Now, if you need to also identify those who are the abusers, people who are extremely possessive, very controlling, those who may threaten to harm someone, those who have no accountability. And I know some of this is also crossing the borderline of just people who are just self-centered. But we have to identify that those who are extremely disrespectful, very possessive, very controlling, those are red signs to watch out for. It doesn't necessarily mean that that person is abusing someone, but you need to watch out and be on the lookout for the person of how this person is acting in your presence, outside of your presence, and who they're acting in this manner towards, because it can very well mean that they are abusing someone. And so I also want to talk about some silent killers. You know, one of the most silent killers from my experience is emotional abuse. Simply because physical abuse can be seen. Emotional abuse, you cannot see it. There are no scars from it. There are no marks from it. There's no visible evidence of emotional abuse, of physical abuse. But emotional abuse, it affects you mentally. It kills your self-esteem. It kills who you think you are about yourself. It will cause you to go into a shell. It will cause you to let go of everything in your life because your mind is not in the place that it needs to be. Emotional abuse is a silent killer because, you know, it's one of those things where it destroys you from the inside out. It literally destroys you from the inside out. You know, once your mind is gone and not in a place where it needs to be, you cannot function on a day-to-day basis. You know, you're trying to get to a happy place. You're trying to get to a peaceful place. You're trying to get through going through the day. And I'm telling you, when you have gone through emotional abuse, when you are going through emotional abuse, it takes you to a point of depression. And depression is so hard for you to overcome. So for those of you who have never gone through abuse, I want to charge you on today to be more understanding of those in your life who you know have gone through it, those who may be going through it. When you're more understanding and not judgmental, then you can be of better help to that person. That person will be more susceptible to opening up to you. So you have to be understanding. You cannot be judgmental, because I'm telling you, you can say that it'll never happen to you, but you don't know what situation that life will bring your way. And so those are some of the types of abuse. Those are some of the red flags to identify the victims of abuse and the suspects who may be abusers. And then the silent killer, emotional abuse, which is something that is on an all-time high. You know, and some people think that there's been a decrease. It never went away. There's never been a decrease. As a matter of fact, there may actually be an increase. You know, if we look up the statistics of abuse in America, it is on an all-time high, not just for women, but for men and for children. You know, and so we have to make ourselves aware of these things, not be afraid to speak up, not be afraid to be an advocate for those who may be going through something. And then, so how do we be a supporter? Again, I have to go over this again because I want you guys to understand that being a supporter to someone who may be abused is something that can change somebody's life. It literally can mean life or death for someone in your life. And you don't know how important the words that you speak are, because what you speak to someone going through divorce can either make or break them. And I want you to be encouraged, to be charged. Be watchful of what people are going through in your life. Be watchful of those around you. Be watchful of your colleagues at work. You know, sometimes people who are being abused come to work looking for an outlet, looking for someone to talk to. So you never know what people may be dealing with, even on your job. You know, so many times we face people who may snap at us, who may be going through something, may have a bad day, but we don't know what that person may be dealing with behind closed doors. And so I want you guys to be understanding, to have compassion, to not be judgmental, but to be able to go to someone in private and say, how can I help you? Can I be an advocate for what you're going through? So for us to be a supporter, myself being an overcomer of abuse, I can tell you that for me, opening up about abuse is having someone who will come to me heart to heart, coming to me in love, coming to me in compassion, saying, you're a strong person. And I know when something is off with you. And for those who know me, you know that I'm extremely strong. So I say that to say that it doesn't matter how strong you are. Abuse doesn't discriminate. When you think you're in love, it doesn't discriminate. Abuse will come in any shape, form, or fashion. But when people can come to you in love and say, I'm concerned about you, I am here for you, and mean it. And trust me, they'll know when it's genuine. They'll know when it's coming from the heart. Then that person that's being abused can say, here's what I'm dealing with. I don't know how to get out. I don't even know how I got in it. But I just need your support. I just need you to let me know that I'm going to make it through this. I just need you to let me know that I'm not in this by myself. That's what I needed to hear in my point of depression. At my lowest point, at my weakest point, I didn't need someone saying, you're too strong for this. I didn't need anyone saying, how did you get into this? You weren't raised like this. This is beneath you. I needed somebody saying, I'm here for you. I love you. You are going to come out of this, and you are going to look back over this situation and thank God that you made it out. That's what I needed. And when I got that, I felt free. I began to get my strength to come out of the situation that I was in. And listen, it's still an everyday journey. It's still an everyday journey. It doesn't change your strength. It doesn't change the level of strength. As a matter of fact, I commend and applaud every person who's gone through abuse because you made it out. And to that one person who may still find themselves in a situation that is not healthy for you, to that person out there that may be in an abusive situation, I want you to know that you do not have to be in that situation. Love doesn't hurt. Love does not hurt at all. Love heals. Love strengthens. Love builds you up. Love conquers all. Do you hear me? So you may find yourself even sneaking and trying to catch this video. You may find yourself trying to find a point of peace. You may be trying to find that one word to let you know that you're going to get through this situation. I want to be that one word for you on tonight and let you know that you can get through your situation. God didn't bring you this far for you to stop now. And to those of you who are going through a season of power and control, I'm praying for you as well that God heals you, because that is a mental disorder to where you feel like you have to control people. You have to be possessive over people. You don't have to control people to show you love them. You don't have to be possessive over people to show that you love them. That's not love. And whomever has hurt you in your life, whether it be your childhood, whether you're dealing with father wounds or mother wounds or family wounds or generational wounds, you need to get the healing and the help that you need so that you can learn how to love people the healthy way. To families that are steady sweeping things under the rug, these generational curses, these generational cycles of abuse, these generational cycles where perpetrators are steady repeating the acts over and over again, we bind that down in the name of Jesus. We rebuke every generational curse in the name of Jesus. It's time for our families to heal. It's time for our children to be healed. It's time for there to be a voice of reckon, a season of reckon for families, so that this cycle does not continue. So it is my prayer that that person out there today that may be going through abuse, that you understand that it is not normal. It is not healthy. Love does not hurt you. And if love is hurting you in any shape, form, or fashion, whether physical, whether sexual, whether mental, whether verbal, emotional, it's not love. And there is help for you. And if at any time you find yourself in a situation that you feel like you cannot handle, there's always 911 to call for help. There are many abuse hotlines that you can call for help. Reach out to a family member, reach out to a friend, reach out to an associate. If you have to report it going to work, get the freedom that you need to get, and know that you will get through this situation and you will be an overcomer of this abuse. And to those of you who are watching who are the abusers, get the help that you need as well. Because mentally, emotionally, verbally, someone has hurt you as well. And I understand that hurt people simply hurt other people. And so you need the help as well. So listen, guys, this is J29. And I want you guys to know that abuse is not normal. It is not healthy. And it is time for us to start standing up for our loved ones, standing up for the babies who don't have a voice, standing up for our colleagues, standing up for our friends and our associates, and not being judgmental, but having compassion. And understand that abuse can happen to anybody. To the men out there, what if it were your daughter, your mother, your sister? To the women out there, what if it were your son, your father, your brother? Would you want them to get help? Would you want them to stay in an abusive situation? And to those of you who are in the situation and you don't want help, I pray that God opens up your eyes to understand that true love is when Jesus died on the cross. True love gives. True love doesn't take. True love doesn't take your pride. It doesn't take your self-esteem. It doesn't do any of those things. But true love builds you up. So if you find yourself in a situation that is not conducive to who you need to be, then you need to leave that situation. So this is Stephanie Lowe, CEO of the J29 Experience. I want you to know that I am praying for you. And just like I made it out of the situations that I have overcome in my life, you can make it out as well. Never be afraid to reach out. And please remember, guys, abuse is not okay. And if we be silent about these things, then who will be a voice of reckoning for those who are going through these tragic situations? Be sure to check out www.j29experience. Check out and see under the register tab all the services that we have to offer, the life group sessions that are approaching, even the upcoming new year, the retreat that will be approaching. And know and understand that I'm praying for you. I love you. You will make it through this situation. And if I can pray with you at any time, please feel free to reach out to me. I love you guys. Have an awesome, awesome night.